So we're going to take a look at some of the Thunder Road Vendetta expansion packs. The pack that we'll look at in this video will be the Big Rig and the Final 5. Now these are, of course, expansions for the base game of Thunder Road Vendetta, and you will need to have Thunder Road Vendetta to use any of these expansions. They are, however, all included in the Maximum Chrome edition of Thunder Road Vendetta. This includes everything up to the Chop Shop expansion, just not Carnival of Chaos. I did not buy these expansions individually. I had bought the basic game and then later got Maximum Chrome with everything in it. So we're going to look at the Big Rig and the Final 5. Now, why is it called the Big Rig and the Final 5? Well, because you've got a Big Rig and you've also got the Final 5, which are these motorcycles. And of course, they all play a little bit differently than the regular cars in Thunder Road, so let's go take a look at these. So I've laid down 2 tracks from the base game here. I've just put 2 because that's all I can really get under camera. I can't raise the camera up enough to get 3 of these in frame. As I said earlier, the Big Rig has the 3 sections, does have a chopper like everybody else, so you still have your chopper. You have a very different looking command board here. This command board could be, for the Big Rig, could be laid down either way. This one goes rear, middle, front, and your command there. You can also flip it that way. You can also go this way and go from rear, middle, front, that way. I prefer it this way, but whichever way works for you. Maybe if you're sitting over on the other side of the board, you can flip it just to keep it orientated. And you have 4 dies to go with that. For the motorcycles, once again, you did have the 5 motorcycles. Each of these motorcycles does have a unique symbol on the top of it to help you identify which one it is. And the command boards have that symbol on the top of them. Plus your main board, you would lay all of those out just like you would the normal game, except you've got 5 of these hanging off the side instead of 3. Again, you have a chopper on this one as well, because you gotta have a chopper. And you have 6 dice. So let's take a look at both of these, and we'll start with the Big Rig. So the Big Rig does run very differently from your normal cars. What you do is you roll your dice, and then after rolling the die on your first turn of the round, you will take one of your 4 dice and you're going to play it here on your hydraulic steering. What is this hydraulic steering for? Well, the Big Rig just drives in a straight line and just plows across the thing. If you want to turn, then you've got to use some of your turns on here. So you'll take 1 die, you place it there on your hydraulic steering, and that's how many times you can turn. If I'd place that one there, I would be able to turn 2 times over the course of the entire round there. Not just that turn, but the entire round. And every time I change lanes, I have to flip this down 1, so I would go from 2 down to 1, and then after using the 1, it would go away. Let's say I put the 3 down here. I could move however many spaces. Let's say I could move 2 spaces. I could go there. If I wanted to turn and change lanes, I would have to flip this to 2. Then I could do that. This trails along it in the space that it was in. So then it would go like this. And then eventually like so. So this just moves forward 1, and then the trailers behind it will go in the just in the section that you went. I'll change lanes again. We'll go like this, that. Okay, you can see how this is going here. And every time you turn, once again, that goes down until it's gone, and then you can't turn anymore, which leaves 3 dice that you would have rolled that can go onto your command board. This kind of doubles as a command board and a movement board for you. And you see you have 3 commands that go and belong to each of these sections of your big rig. The center command on all of them is repair, which repair is done off of a 3. The other commands on here would be any of the others on it. The rear section, hazard dispenser, which can drop a hazard off of the rear arc of the thing. That would happen during the command section of it. So at the beginning of the turn, yes, this has a rear arc, which means that if you're shooting, you can shoot off the front or the rear arc of the big rig. So it can shoot a lot more. Targeting computer, which will let you re-roll the shooting dice when you roll on that turn. Traction drive, which will let you use the road die this turn because the big rig does not use the road die unless you turn on traction drive. If you turn on traction drive, you get the extra spaces from the road die. Does not matter if you stayed on road sections or not. Airstrike is just your regular airstrike command with your chopper. The missile launcher, which you roll the shooting dice in each vehicle, 1 or adjacent to the space 2 spaces in front of you takes 1 minor damage if they are hit by the roll. This would be a separate thing from the shoot at the end of your turn. So if you had like a vehicle that was there and you rolled the die, if you're able to roll a small, since it is everything on or adjacent to this area here gets hit, everything in there that's small gets hit. And what is minor damage? Well, minor damage is a new thing that came along with this set, which are little things that look like this. It is called minor damage because they don't actually do anything. The other side is just damage there. We'll go over what's going on with some of the minor damage in a bit. The last command you have would be the cow catcher. First time you enter a space with a hazard or a car, if it's a hazard, you remove it. If it's a car, the car's controller moves it to the left or front right. So you just knock cars out of the way with the cow catcher and you just plow through obstacles, through hazards. Now this is an interesting thing because the big rig has a different way that it interacts with hazards and a different way that it interacts with cars in a slam. If the big rig were to just go through a hazard token, such as if it were to go through this space right here, when it hits it, this will flip over. It would normally be a mine. Well, the effect from the mine isn't going to happen because that's just going to go away. And instead, you've got these tokens came with the game, and that just becomes an off-road token. And what happens is you now have to place a minor damage onto one of your commands here that can take damage. You'll see that there's like kind of a faint X behind it. You can place it on any command besides repair. So if you're taking damage, you can choose which one it's going to go on. We'll say it's like the targeting computer gets that X on it. That's broken now. Additionally, if he had more moves, he could just keep on rolling. So yeah, he's not going to stop for a lot. Now, once that command is got the X on it, obviously you can't use that command, and that is 1 point of damage on there. If you get 6 points of damage on your board, your big rig is inoperable. And when your big rig is inoperable, you are eliminated from the game because that's the only vehicle you have, and it's the only vehicle you have is inoperable. Of course, you can't remove these with a repair. You have to place it on that section. You can only repair 1 point of damage on any section on each round. You won't be able to repair multiple times because once you roll a 3 and put it on the repair, you can take that off. But now that one is full and you can't do any more. As far as how you interact with slams, if you were to slam into a vehicle, you would end up rolling the direction die. Now, you don't roll the slam die. And the reason you don't roll the slam die is because you're the big rig. The other vehicle is always going to move. So the other vehicle will always roll the die. They will always end up moving, and neither player gets to re-roll in that case. You just knock them out of your way with your big rig. If your big rig is targeted by another vehicle, they will target and shoot at one of the sections that is in their front arc. So they could hit that way. If they were to get here, they could hit the front one. So they can hit, whichever one is in their front arc. When they shoot at your vehicle and target a specific section, they not only target that section, they target specifically one of the commands. And if they are successful in shooting you, you are treated like a large vehicle in the context of being shot at. If they are able to go up to you and successfully roll to hit a large vehicle, they get to decide to drop damage over your command, and you can't use that command until you repair it. Also, the big rig cannot be eliminated by choppers. If it ends on a space with a chopper on it, that chopper just goes back to its owner, and they can place it on their next turn when they next time that they use their airstrike command. Another thing to note here is if the big rig goes into an impassable space, it is not eliminated from the game. Instead, it just takes 1 damage, and that turns into an off-road space. You're probably thinking, wow, this big rig, there's not a lot to stop this big rig. It can turn if it wants to and change lanes, but it just goes through in the straight line, and it just plows through things. I mean, yeah, it takes damage, but you can repair. Moving this one vehicle 3 times in a round is just crazy. And yeah, it seems that way, but there's something that's not in the rule books that kind of explains that once you see it, and that is going to be the dice for the big rig. The dice for the big rig only go up to 3. So outside of using the traction drive or some other mechanic in the game to let you go more spaces than what your die is, it can only ever go 3. Additionally, on the die, there are 3 1s, 2 2s, and 1 3. So it is much more likely for you to roll the lower numbers, and that's kind of what evens it out. That yeah, it does get to move 3 times in a turn, but it's probably not moving a whole lot on each of those turns in that round. And so the only ways that the big rig can be eliminated would be to have minor damage on all 6 of the commands. If you were to ever get to this point, you would be eliminated. Also, if the big rig were to drop off the back of the last board as that is removed, it would have to be all 3 sections of it. So if it were sitting something like this and the backboard were removed, since the front piece is still on this one, it is not eliminated. It's still in the game. You're also not eliminated by going into the impassable spaces because you just turned those into a off-road section. And also, you aren't ever going to go off the sides of the board because there's nothing that can push you around because you're a big rig. Those other cars ain't moving you. So you can see what's strong about the big rig. You can see what's weak about the big rig. Well, let's go ahead and get into the next part of this, which instead of the big rig is the final 5. All right, we're taking a look at the final 5. And as you see, there are 5 motorcycles. Each of them has a symbol that is located on the top of the board, and right here on the motorcycle will have that same exact symbol on it. So you have 6 dice. Yes, 6 dice. And the way that is going to go is that you are going to roll your 6 dice, and you are going to play 2 dice on each of your turns. One of those 6 dice will go to one of your commands. The other will go on to one of the motorcycles. So on each turn, you're either going to move 2 different motorcycles, or you are going to move 1 motorcycle and play 1 command. As motorcycles get disabled, you can also coast one of your other motorcycles. If you only have 1 usable motorcycle, you can move the motorcycle once and then coast that motorcycle 4 times. Remember that coasting, just like on others, moves it just 1 space. So your commands on here are going to be kind of similar to the others. You're just only going to have 3. You're going to have airstrike, which can be any. That's going to be pretty much like you're used to. The nitro lets you gain movement equal to the value of the dice. That will be 1 or 2. So you can play 1 nitro per round. And then you also have a repair, where you can repair 1 of your motorcycles per round. So you can only repair 1 motorcycle each time. When motorcycles take damage, they take minor damage. So they don't have effects, but as soon as they take any damage, that one is disabled, and it stays disabled until you repair it when you remove the minor damage and flip that back over. In regards to being shot at by other vehicles, you are considered to be a small vehicle. Motorcycles are a little bit different, that as they go through other vehicles, they get to drift around them instead of slamming. So the only ways that you would slam would be if you stop your turn on the space with another vehicle, you would slam. And also if someone else runs into you on your turn, you would slam. And if you're around one of your motorcycles into one of your other motorcycles at the end of the turn, you would also slam. Slams work a little bit differently. Just like the big rig, you just rolled a direction die and not the slam die, because in a slam, a motorcycle will always end up moving. So you're going to slam, you're going to roll the direction die, and your motorcycle goes that direction. If you run 2 of your motorcycles into each other, you get to decide which one is going to end up moving. Motorcycles can, as I talked about earlier, be made inoperable. Motorcycles also can be eliminated from effects, so don't go running into impassable spaces or flying off the side of the board or getting left behind. Any of those will make you end up being eliminated. Once all 5 of your motorcycles are eliminated or inoperable, you have been eliminated from the game. And really, the final 5, the motorcycles, are a much simpler thing than the big rig. The big rig is fun and is a cool thing to have in there, but there are like a lot of little rules to make sure that the big rig is running properly the way that it should. The motorcycles run much more like a regular vehicle, just with a few different caveats on them, but they're caveats that kind of make sense and seem obvious. But anyway, these are ways to add something to it there. Although they don't officially say that, you could, with this expansion, now play 5 or 6 players, because you would have the 4 vehicles plus the 2 from this here that would let you move all the way up to 6 players on the board. Now, if you wanted to do something crazy like that, it would get congested, but you know, if you're fine having a full board, you could do it that way. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and a like. You can also go down to the comment section and let me know any thoughts that you have down there. And you also subscribe to my channel to make sure that you don't miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you around next time.